Hi folks, I'm Joe and welcome to the channel. In this micro lesson, I'm going to do something a little bit more selfish, if you will. I'm going to put myself on a 2-week challenge, and I invite you to take the same challenge with me. You see, recently I've been trying to study more lead playing, and I've noticed that people play nice melody lines, some good blues lines, and they have these nice runs, these sequential runs. Well, I don't know any of those, so I thought I would give myself 3 runs. 2 of which I actually found from looking back into old guitar lessons I probably took in the 90s, to be honest with you. I don't even remember them, but I'm going to give myself this challenge for 2 weeks to basically practice these for maybe 15 to 20 minutes a day, just to see if I can build up that dexterity. I'm actually just curious to see if this old man could even learn something new. Let me go ahead and grab a guitar and I'll show you the sequences that I'm working on. Okay, pattern 1 that I'm going to learn, the first sequence, is basically a pentatonic pattern. I thought I would hopefully start easy. I don't even know if it's going to be easy, but lots of times you'll hear Joe Bonamassa or Eric Johnson blow through these, I guess, groupings of 6 notes, and then they kind of backpedal and go through that. So I thought that would be a good one to start with. So I'm going to start with the E minor pentatonic scale. Box 1, everyone's favorite box, right? And I'm basically going to play 6 notes up, backtrack a set of strings, and keep going, that same pattern. And I'm going to do the same thing going backwards. Now, I would love to play that fast for you, but I think that's about as fast as I can play it right now. Now, one little tip for you. I've noticed that a lot of players play this actually with the same fingering for all notes. If you notice what I was doing the traditional 1-4, 1-3, 1-3, 1-3, 1-4, 1-4. I've noticed that a lot of people play this kind of in the blues or rock hand position, which is basically 1-3 the whole way, but stretching that 3rd finger. So I'm going to try it that way as well, and also for picking, I'm going to do all alternate picking at first. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and etc. and so forth. And I'm also going to try it with hammer-ons and pull-offs. Well, I should just say hammer-ons, I guess. Well, and pull-offs going back down. And I'm just going to pick the first note and then hammer on the second note. That wasn't even the right pattern. Well, this is why it's a challenge for me. I gotta learn this. But basically what I'm trying to do is just play the first note, hammer on, and then going down I'll do pull-offs, picking just the first note. So that's going to be the first pattern. I'm going to try those different variations. So the next 2 sequences I'm going to try are something from my first guitar lessons that I took a long time ago in the 90s, when it was kind of like the heyday of shredding. The first thing that I learned was 3 notes per string patterns for the major scale, something like this. And the sequence is to go up 4 notes and then start on the second note that was in the, how do I explain this? Go up 4 notes and then start on the next note that would have been in the major scale. So in this case here, for this G major, I'm going to go up 4 notes. Backtrack and start on the second note of that scale. Backtrack again, start on the 3rd note. And then repeat that pattern all the way through. Now something interesting is going to happen on the 3rd string. We need to do a position shift. And that's the reason why I picked this sequence, because I want to help build up my dexterity in my hand. So when we get to this third string, we could play it like this, but it's a little awkward to keep going that way. So what I found was, and what I learned, I shouldn't say I found, what I was taught was to take this first finger and slide it up. So as part of the sequence, it's this. And we might just want to practice that for a while. And this is all alternate picking again. Down, up, down. So practicing that kind of sets you up nicely when you backtrack, because your first finger just has to come back over. So I'll do that part again. Now we can repeat the same type of pattern we did before, basically not having to worry about using one finger and sliding. And then we'll do the same thing going backwards. Backtrack. Oh my goodness. Again, sliding that first finger. Well, you can see that I'm struggling already with this. But again, this is the whole point of this challenge. Anyway, playing it forwards and backwards. That's going to be sequence number 2. And that's going to be a rough one. For the final sequence that I'm going to practice, it's going to be more of a pedal note type of idea. So we're going to play up here in the, I guess this is E minor. And that's going to be a pattern. And you can hear there's kind of these pedal notes. So what I'm starting with is I'm starting with E on the 12th fret. And then I'm coming up to the G on the 15th fret. Going down to the 14th fret. Back up to the 15th fret. And then down to the D here with the same pedal with the G, F sharp, G. Then C on the next string over to the B. And it has this nice little melody line. In between the pedal notes. And why I picked this one is, again, getting used to my hand shifting fast in between a passage. And you can see I can't play that very fast at all at this point in time, but I'm hoping in 2 weeks things will be better. But again, that's another challenging one. So I started off easy with the pentatonic one, went to the major scale sequence, and now I'm going to go ahead and do this, I guess, pedal note type of idea, type of sequence. So those are the 3 patterns. What am I going to do for practicing? Again, I'm going to do 15 to 20 minutes a day, and I'm definitely going to use a metronome. I found even when I was just playing that I was not in time. So it's important when we're practicing this to start with a metronome. And I'm going to actually start with this old-fashioned one here from my childhood. I guess I'm having a nostalgic moment, if you will. And I'm going to start with basically it on 60 beats per minute. And I'm just going to try to do, I guess, 16th notes for the major scale one. Whoa, this is going to be fun. I feel bad that I'm making you watch all my mistakes. Let's see if I can even do it one time through. Oh my goodness. Well, I definitely have my work cut out for me. So you can see at least I'm not faking this, folks. This is really something that I want to work on and get better at. So I encourage you to try these sequences with me. And if you post your video, make a video of this and maybe post in the comments. I'm more than happy to check out how you're progressing through these 2 weeks. So I'm going to turn the camera off now. I'm going to get to work for 2 weeks, and then I'll come back and I'll share with you hopefully some insights that I've learned while practicing these sequences. Okay, here we are 2 weeks later, and before I show you my lack of progress, well, hopefully some progress, I just wanted to share with you my process, and then I'll do some of the exercises for you and show you how far I've come. And then I wanted to share after that some tips and tricks. I took some notes along the way, just to keep my mind, fresh on what the progress I was making, or if anything popped in my head that I thought was worth sharing with you all. So first of all, the process was this. I set up on my calendar a reminder for 8:30 every evening to pop up and let me know to practice these sequences. Now, why did I do that? Well, sometimes it's nice to work with deadlines and commitments to get things done. And if you don't do this already, I might recommend you doing it, is putting on your calendar some practice time. It's important because it really tells your brain, okay, I blocked off this time specifically to work on this stuff, and it just kind of keeps you, well, at least for me, it kept me motivated, and it also served as a reminder to say, hey, make sure you practice today. And each exercise that I did, remember there's 3 of them, I just did it for 5 minutes each time, each exercise. So basically it's about 15 to 20 minutes of practice in these past 2 weeks every day. Now I will tell you something, one of my notes is, that I'll share with you now, is my hand really got tired. I really have a lot of respect now for people like Paul Gilbert and everyone that can just keep shredding forever. My hand, I found, really got fatigued, so when I went to the second exercise, I was making it harder on myself because my hand was already tired. So that's something to take away from and learn from, hopefully from me. Until you kind of build up the stamina, you might want to take breaks. So if I were to do this again, I would still do probably 5 minutes per exercise. I felt that was good. But in between each, I would take maybe, another 2 or 5 minute break. Maybe practice on some chords or something else just to give your hand a little bit of a break before you go into the next sequence. And another thing that I took down as a tip, I know I said I was going to share these afterwards, but I guess I'm going to share them during the process of doing this because I'm a little bit nervous. I found recording yourself when doing this is very helpful. It puts that extra pressure on you to stay really focused. And it also kind of gives you a little bit more of a real-world scenario. Like, can I not only do these sequences in my bedroom, but can I actually pull them off in front of people? Okay, let's go ahead and try this exercise now. It's 60 beats per minute. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and So, one thing I noticed, I was rushing in some of those parts. It's interesting now that I'm doing this at the slower pace, it seems like it's a little bit harder for me to do it slower, even though you should practice it always at any speed just to practice accuracy. And the other thing that I'm noticing too is, I realized doing this whole entire process that my synchronization between my 2 hands, and I can't even say that word, my synchronization between my 2 hands really isn't that good. I noticed that I'm sloppy in certain areas, but this is where we're at now, and it's only been 2 weeks, so I'm not going to be too hard on myself, but I am going to constantly work on this because I really need to get these guys in sync. All right, here we are, 96 beats per minute. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E. Okay, I made it through. It was still a little rough, obviously. We can hear that. Again, the synchronization's getting hard for me to get down. It's some notes were just sloppier than others. Timing-wise, I was definitely rushing again in certain areas. But overall, not too bad. I was able to at least go from 60 to 96 in 2 weeks. Again, something that I'm going to constantly work on. Another thing I took down as my notes, and I kind of felt it that this time too, is that my old friend pressing too hard on the fretboard is back, where it really slows you down if you're putting a lot of pressure on this hand. So if I lighten up, that just felt smoother to me as far as the pressure on my hand, and I felt like I was able to go a little bit faster that way and just be more consistent. So watch the pressure of the fretboard hand when you're going through these exercises. So the next pattern or sequence was the blues one, which is going up 3 sets of strings and then backtracking and doing it again. Slowly was this. Now I know I said I was going to practice that one with doing hammer-ons and then pull-offs coming down, but I really didn't get too much into that because I'm really, again, discovered that my hands are not in sync together, so I just kept this one strictly as an alternate picking exercise. So that was basically the top speed that I can get. And again, it's sloppy still. I can hear that. I can't even get the last note. But that's basically the top speed that I was able to get within the 2 weeks. So out of all these patterns, the one I found the hardest was the last one, or I don't even remember what order I showed them to you. Forgive me in the first part of this video. But what I practiced last was usually that pivoting exercise. I found my original notes on this, so I know that I showed you to play up here. But in my original notes, I found that the lick actually was up here, which you would think would make it easier because it's less of a jump here, but I found that my fingers are kind of still squished in here, and on the back of my guitar, my thumb is kind of bent in an awkward position. I think when I first learned this exercise, I had like an Ibanez or something, which is potentially a little bit thinner in the back. Thinner neck, I should say. So I still practice it kind of everywhere just to kind of get used to that motion. And what I found when I was practicing this one was the whole idea of focusing in on just the first note of each phrase helped me, because if I was trying to think about all the fingerings, I felt it was just tying me up a little bit to think too much about that. So I was kind of grouping the information as Alright, let's go ahead and try this last one at 96 beats per minute, which I'm sure is going to be sloppy. But sometimes you gotta gun it. I found that the slower that I did this, the sloppier I was at recovering from that skip. So let's go ahead and gun it and see what happens. No one's gonna watch this part of the video anyway, it's so far back. That's what I'll tell myself. 1, 2, 3. Still can't even get one good clean one out of there. Let's try it again. And I'm rushing. Not to make things even harder for myself, right? I'm gonna move it up here and see if I can do it. Still sounds like a big mess. Well, that's about as far as I got with this exercise. Again, it was 5 minutes per exercise a day for 2 weeks. And it's still sloppy, folks. I know it's not that good, but it did show me that I can make improvements if I focus on this, and I do need to cut back the metronome and just practice again slowly, because as you can see, my biggest problem, I think right now, well, I have a lot of problems, but the biggest one that I can see right now is that my hands really aren't in sync, which is making this harder. So let me just go review my notes just to make sure there's nothing else that I wanted to touch on and share with you. Again, the recap was the fret pressure, the pressure that I'm putting down on this fretting hand is definitely slowing me down. So I need to loosen that up and lighten up. So that's maybe something to look for when you're trying to do this type of exercise. Count yourself in. I mean, I can still see that my timing is just not very good. I'm still rushing. And that's my natural tendency, is to kind of push the beat, which is just terrible. I wish I was more behind the beat. So it's definitely something I still need to work on. But count yourself in 1E and the 2E and the 3E. And then rev your engine up, I'll call it, which is getting your picking hand going, 1E and the 2E and then go into the sequence. Take definitely breaks in between practicing these sequences. Again, I found that my hand fatigue really hurt me here as far as just making any progress on the second one. So I was just doing too many things back to back, and I was just tiring out my hand too much. So build some time in for that. Keep notes like I'm doing of your progress. I mean, it can get, you know, when I watch this video over, I'm sure I'm going to be really discouraged how I didn't really come that far in my brain. I just still feel like I really want to execute those cleanly, but I just couldn't do it at this point in time. But I'm human, right? But I took notes along the way, and I do know that I was at a worse spot. I couldn't even do these exercises at 60 beats per minute. So at least I've gotten the clicks up a little bit, and at least I'm able to execute them at some sort of speed higher than that. But pushing myself, clearly, they're just sloppy. But anyway, just take notes along the way to give yourself encouragement that you are making progress, or videotape yourself or record yourself doing these exercises so you can hear the progress that you've made. I think that's something important to do. And I found too, here's another thing I forgot to talk about. When you're practicing these things, sometimes if you need to, break up the information in chunks and just practice those chunks first. So what I mean by that was, as you saw on that last exercise, I'm really struggling a lot with this jump. That jump is really hard for me. So for a while I was just practicing that. Before I then would put it back with the other pieces. I messed it up, but... And if you just need to practice that part. So, I'm not even doing it right. And then put all the pieces together. And that's sloppy, this part. Anyway, I keep critiquing myself, but the point I'm trying to make is break up the information into chunks. Well, another micro lesson down. Hey, if you found any value in this video whatsoever, please do me a favor and consider helping me grow the channel by subscribing down below and hitting the like button. All these things help me out, and I'm very grateful for your support. As always, I wish you a wonderful day.